Hi, everybody. So I'm back tonight and I've got Aric here with me. I have Aric Lopez with me. I'm going to have Aric come on and just share a little bit of his story. And, throughout the live, if people want to ask some questions, I will let him answer those at the end or throughout. But I'm gonna ask him up here now. I'm going to add him up. What's up, Aric?
What's happening?
Nothing. I wanted to start out by talking about just how we met a little bit. How I think it was Ashley, your sister Ashley, and maybe even your mom, but I know Ashley because I work with her on the coalition, and she reached out and just was really wanting to get you some help, and of course to Ruben. And so Ruben and I went and saw you at the jail, and I believe that was in August of what, 25 or August of
24.
August of 24. Okay. August. Yeah, that's right. And so we go down there and then, we make this connection over Brad, my nephew, that was a good friend of yours, and he died in his addiction, and that you knew my sister and you knew them. And so there was that connection. Plus, you were Ashley's brother, and I was like, we really are going to go to bat for him, and I really wanted to try to get you in the house. So I went to one of your courts while you were still in jail, me and Ruben both. And it's just, you probably are the only person so far that I started going to court with them before they ever got out of jail. But it was important that we show up and show the judge, because a couple months later, I was able to go back in person in court with you. And I remember that was kind of crazy. Like, that was kind of a crazy experience because we were both kind of tripping out. You're like, this is the first time I've ever been in this jail without cuffs and stuff on. So you reached out, we went in, not on purpose, but me and Ruben were like good cop, bad cop, because Ruben's probably kind of like laying it down to you. Freedom air is different than jail air and this and that. And I'm like crying. I'm like, I'm gonna help you. You're gonna be good. So to your credit, we got you in the House of Hope. You got out, you showed up at Sunrise, and you've literally just never left. You're like one of the OG Sunrise people. You're really the only guy that's still with Sunrise since the very beginning of it, that you started coming. And it's just been a little bit over a year, and you've just had an amazing journey since then. And go ahead and just, share whatever you want to share. When people start commenting or have questions, we can do those at the end, but just go ahead and share whatever you feel like you want to share.
Yeah. So I'll pick up like where we met. We could start there in the story. Yeah, I was had some violations. Wasn't sticking in line with probation. Trying to self sponsorship. I'm lucky enough. I'm sure as many addicts have that family support of non addicts, trying to save the addict's life. That was my sister, my mom. My sister's my mom, my brother in law. Um, my sister, she works in the addiction counseling field, and yeah, it was crazy. Addict stories. I had a falling out with most of my family, like most of us do, especially my baby sister, though. But yeah, it was an eye opening experience and humbling experience. Like as soon as I touched down on the floor there in lovely Graham County Hotel, she was on the horn, trying to get me support, trying to get me the help that she thought I
Mhm.
deserved. I didn't think I deserved it. You know what I mean? I slicked and slimed my way through life and addiction. 20 years of addiction, and alcoholism. You ruin a lot of relationships, friendships. Um, so I wasn't sure if anybody was going to trust me. My mom had been trying to get me to reach out to Ruben, and it was I was one of those closet addicts, as you could say, thinking that nobody knew my get, and that I was just able to hide that addiction, and it caught up with me. And I remember sitting in my apartment the day before probation raided my house, and I was before I got arrested, like I'd had like a month of reality check to where I was defeated. I was done. I didn't want to live that life anymore, but I didn't know how to fix it. I was in such a deep hole, and my pride, one of my biggest factors in my addiction and my downfall, wouldn't let me pick up that 1,000-pound phone to reach out for help. I remember seeing Ruben's number, and um, in my head, having everybody tell him, reach out to him. And I was like, well, I don't even know this guy. Like, how is he going to help me if he doesn't know me? What's he going to do for me? And then that was always my mentality. Like, what are these people? They don't know what I'm going through. They don't know what I do, or what I'm dealing with. How is this outside source going to help me?
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest things that played a part. You talk about connection, and it was really about that for me, is letting those walls down for the people that really wanted to try to help me, really wanted to see me successful. When you guys came into jail, I was definitely at rock bottom. I was a broken man, and that's even reaching for me calling myself a man at that time, because I didn't feel like I was. I have a daughter. Um, I can't consider myself being a father if I'm in jail. Can't support, can't provide. Can't father a kid in jail, and especially in addiction and alcoholism. I use that as one of my crutches and excuses to not go to treatment, not to admit where I was in my addiction or anything, because I needed to be there for my daughter. When in reality, what kind of parent are you through addiction and alcoholism around a kid? It was an awful feeling, and I was blessed. I tell probation all the time, like, I'm about to be off probation in May, and that's everybody's end goal, or it should be anyways, getting off paperwork and continue your life without those babysitters. But I was truly blessed by the strong hand of law, and throwing me in jail to let me sit down and gather myself, and gain some clarity in my addiction, and sober up and dry out. And in the middle of that, you guys were able to come in and really give me that outreaching hand that I just needed to reach for. You guys did play good cop, bad cop. We're lucky enough to be from a small town and have relationships. And like you said, your nephew Brad, man, me and him grew up. I seen him go through a lot of, like a lot of my friends I grew up with. I was going through my invites on my phone and everything like that, and kind of puts into perspective what addiction does to somebody's life. There's a lot of losses, a lot of people on there that aren't here anymore. From my graduating class, there's over 10 people I can think of that I've lost to addiction or alcoholism, or locked up and not experiencing this blessing of a life of sobriety. So you guys played good cop, bad cop with me. I still, you get the jailhouse talk. Oh yeah, this, that, and the other. So I wasn't hopeful, but I knew I had to find some hope and some integrity in myself to be like, okay, this is my structure, this is my plan, this is what I need to do. So I was lucky enough to have probation, from the back end, save my life, and not put up with my antics and my bullshit, because I got the gift of gab. I work in sales. I've worked in sales. I've bullshitted my way through a lot, and that time it didn't work. It didn't work for me. They didn't care. They're like, nope, you're going to sit here, and they gave me a shot. And I always told myself, like, I don't know how many more chances I have. My 9 cat lives are over.
That's right.
I definitely could or should be dead or locked up, from the lifestyle I live, the situations I put myself in, the experiences I've had, so who am I to waste this blessing, and not really dedicate myself and give it my all, so I made a decision to go to the House of Hope, which was another saving grace for me. It's hard. It was hard for me anyways, being from this town, having the resources I have and, the family I have. I could have come and stayed at this, that, or the other family members, but I knew there was something that was making me fall right back into that pattern of alcoholism and addiction. I had to honestly, like what the steps tell you, is just to give it to God and understand that it wasn't my will. I couldn't be in that driver's seat no more. One of my good friends in the recovery community, always tells me, you can't fix the shit in your head with the shit in your head.
That's right.
And I couldn't think right. I couldn't process right. For years, I'd been numbing all those feelings, dodging all those problems. So I know I had to be in a safe environment, as hard as it was for me to give up my apartment, give up my job, give up time with my daughter. That was hard. It was hard, super, super hard and really demoralizing me as a man, but I knew that I couldn't have the things I wanted if I didn't have a sober Aric. My daughter deserves better. My family does. They've gone to bat for me countless times. They should have put me on a boat and sailed me off a long time ago. So I just decided to buckle down, take everything as it came to me, and leave it in the past. No future tripping, not worrying about the past, and just living in the moment. I always tell everybody, my recovery has a shelf life of 24 hours. I
Okay.
can only take care of what I got to do today. If I have to break it down to minutes, hours, whatever, I can only do it today. I can't worry about tomorrow. I can't fix yesterday. So
Well,
that those small steps were vital to me in getting to where I am today, as far as being sober and clear minded.
well, and just like you say, the connection, and it's part of the reason, absolutely part of the reason you got into the house so fast. We try and help everybody, but as a matter of fact, I was showing up to court because, I was showing up to court. Me and Ruben were going to go. This is Ashley. She's part of our family. You know what I mean? She's part of this. I know your mom, your sisters were reaching out. And I think that's why what we do, like as a Sunrise program, as mentors, as what we do now, and it is so important because the vast majority of people in addiction do not have the supportive families like we do. I mean, your family's my family now. My family's your family now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are able to do for others what somebody did for us. It's a cliche, but it's like what was
Mhm.
freely given to us, we freely give to them. And you got people popping up in here saying comments and stuff. But then talk about how, well, I do remember literally the night you got out of jail, or it might have been the very night. I think it was the very night you showed up at Sunrise. And I think Chris was there that night. Was Chris there the first night you got out? I can't remember, my brother, but
No,
um,
I got out of jail on a Sunday, I believe,
what was
because I
it?
remember I went to a first meeting I had gone to in years, because I'd been to a rehab prior, in Yuma, and it's a real intense, 90 and 90. I think I did like 140 meetings in 90 days or something like that. But it's required, and I had the wrong mindset of, because I was only allowed to be on property, so I could only go to AA meetings. I never thought of myself as an alcoholic. I never got in trouble with alcohol. I could put down the bottle whenever I wanted, even though I continuously drank for years and years and years. I had that mindset of like, how is this alcoholic going to help this addict? They've never kicked down doors for a 30 pack or, done these crazy things for a bottle of alcohol. So, I just knew I had to change everything. They say there's one thing you got to change, and it's everything. And I absolutely had to. I had to put down that pride. I had to put down, me worrying about what this community is going to think of me, like I said, because we come from a small town, and
Yeah.
it was something that I was like, no, I don't want people knowing or seeing, or my circumstances and me being vulnerable to what others think. So I went to the first meeting at the house at the Sunrise, or
The
not
next
Sunrise,
night.
at the Hope of Hope. It was a Sunday meeting, and then I went to that AA meeting, and then the next night I went to my first Sunrise meeting,
Yeah, and I
and
remember you were like limping around, you were hurt and stuff, and you're like, from the get, you've always been very supportive. You're like, if I can come help you do anything, and you're like, I'll sweep the floors, whatever. I'm like, you can't barely walk, but you would come up there, and I do, like you came up and helped me fold hundreds of newsletters. Actually, so the girls at the house help me do it now, but you got a system down. You were like folding them, whatever, stuffing them. I mean, like you whipped them right out. So that was amazing. I'm still struggling with doing that all the time. But I mean, from the get, since you got out, you took it seriously. You've been very supportive. You've been supportive of the guys at the house. You became the assistant house manager. You became the house manager. You're a mentor for people. I mean, you're always one of my biggest supporters. Anytime we have an event we want you to come through, you show up. And I have to say that for all of our OG Sunrise game, Priscilla. I mean, yeah. Hi, Priscilla. I see you on there, but Patricia, Stacy, Shay, I'm really happy to have Jack come back around. But, I do feel like people, if they, AA, NA, all that is great also, but the Sunrise program is a great place. We will help you. We will support you. You guys were there every Monday night at 5:30. And people ask me all the time I have meetings from other counties about like they want to model the Sunrise program, and I'm like, there's no blueprint on it. We just show up, we support each other.
freestyle.
It's free, it's freestyle. Sunrise is freestyle, but it's all about that support and the connection, and we believe in all pathways to recovery. So you've got some people popping up on here. Hi Aric. Hi Aric Roan. That's somebody I met when I was in prison. But Stacy's on here. You had a few. Brandon Davis is on here. They're very proud of you. Let me see. Yeah, Stacy. Somebody your mom. Hi, mom. Kendall Delgado. Hey, your mom is forever going to be the OG for pulling in with the pink cookies. That was a gangster move. I'm not going to go into that too much, but
She's
your
the
mom.
biggest single mom
Yes.
And still to this day, she works 2 jobs. You know, my mom was a
Hmm.
culinary teacher. She waitresses.
Yep.
Uh, I wish I had a tenth of the work ethic and the accountability that my mom has. You know, so it's always been something, a model that I can, try to structure my life off of. And I think that's where like addiction really started for me. You know, you get down into finding these root problems and the causes on why you use. And like, I never, did I have a great childhood? Absolutely not. You know, it was rough. Like most addict stories, I come from a small town. It was cool. I went to Thatcher. But I never really fit in, and it was, did my I had a single mom for a long time,
Hmm.
so there was some male figures in my life that weren't maybe the most positive role models, But when I started using, I mean, I remember drinking my first time when I was probably 5, 6 years old. I thought it
Hmm.
was what you do with the men when you go hunting and stuff like that. I had no idea that's not what you should do with your kids.
Right.
But I never used me using as a crutch. It was my choice. I did it. It was never until I started really getting into that trauma factor and really trying to digest and dig up, all right, what are the reasons that I use? What is causing this? And I think it was just to fit in, like most addicts, just to get out of my skin, not being comfortable with who I was. I've always been a class clown. I think that relates to me wanting to fit into and distract and, take away from what was going on in my head or at the time of my life. Um, but I've always had a rock solid foundation with my mother.
Yes.
She's she's a rock star, man, and
Yes.
continues to grind. I'll never I want to say live up to her standards, but I have never been the son that she raised or that she deserved to have. So a lot of what I do now is to try to you know erase some of those bad memories and bad past and the decisions and circumstances I put him into. I was homeless in Phoenix in the streets
Hmm.
for quite a while and just angry. I don't know. My family probably tried to give me 7 interventions at least,
Yeah.
in early addiction. I was a heroin opiate addict for 7 plus years. And that was the opiate thing was rough for me.
Yeah. It's rough.
It definitely tore apart my life. It was something that really made me understand what addiction was, looking, in hindsight, because it's such a powerful thing. It takes everything you have, and it takes everything you have to not be sick, not withdraw. I was a baby to
Yeah.
withdraw. So for 7 years, I don't think I went one time more than 12 hours without some type of substance. I
Okay.
didn't
I get it.
I didn't understand it. I just knew that I didn't want to feel like that. I had to try to keep up with the Joneses and work and not stay at home. So, I was always trying to play this, Jekyll and Hyde role. And, you know, this last December, it's been, let's see, it's 2017 since I've touched an opiate. But, that's why a lot of
Mm.
people, that grind, that I had to get up every morning and try to hustle some way to not be sick, or, that drive that I had to put in to go into the dope man's house to finesse my way into getting whatever I needed. That's one of the big things that Bidey talks about. If I just put a little bit of you put an addict in a room with a bunch of normies, that addict's going to figure out a way to
Yeah.
get whatever it is that we're going to get. And if I put
Mhm.
that and justify those actions into positive actions now, getting up for work, being a father, being a brother, being a son, being a member of this community, and helping out other people that are struggling. Like, it's cliche to, if I'm doing it, anybody can do it, but it's true. It's something that I recover out loud just like you do, because I suffered
Yeah.
in silence for so long. I'm
That's
not
it.
saying I didn't have the help, but I didn't know how to ask for it. I didn't know how to get out of that hole. It was a crazy situation for me, and to put my family through that, to put my sisters, my daughter through that. It's such a selfish thing, but I think in addiction, that's what we are, is just selfish people.
For sure.
So now to learn how to be selfless is another struggle, and there's different struggles in sobriety. Am I lucky enough that I my minimal, like super minimal cravings or triggers that I have, I like to say I don't have triggers because my lifestyle was 24/7
That's it.
addiction involved. So if I had triggers, it would be every single thing that I do every single day. That's not me. I've been lucky enough to not have those cravings or triggers. Let's see, I'm like 2 weeks away from 18 months being sober, and I've had maybe one or two. My thing is the not lashing out on people, learning how to control my actions and other people's actions, and not letting those control me. Dealing with emotions. I didn't realize what emotions were. I'm a grown ass man, but I'll cry. I was raised by women. I was raised in the estrogen ocean. So
Aric,
tears aren't nothing to me. But now,
that sometimes when you first got out, even several months in, and you were adjusting and you were just newly sober, but I would tell your sister, I'd be like, man, sometimes Aric be popping off in those meetings, or sometimes Aric would want to beat people up, or you have come so far. And I know you could credit it some of it to your family and all that, but you've really done the work on your steps. But the first time I went to an AA meeting and you were chairing, not that I was shocked that you're intelligent, because I'm not, that's not what I'm saying, but just how much knowledge you actually had about the program and how well spoken you were. It would just from like the past interactions I had from you, and just how much more I don't know, calm you have become. I even went and told Kathy after the first time I went to the meeting, I said, Aric has really just transformed right before my eyes. Like, you totally grew up. Kenny Smith's on here and he's just saying like he's proud of you and that you and your mom are role models, and a lot of people are really proud of you. They are really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. I just do want to say though, you set these goals when you got out, like nothing crazy. But you said, I'm going to stay in this house for this long. I'm not going to leave before I should. And when it came time for you to leave, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want him to go. But I know it was time, and I know that was your goal, and I know you can't stay there forever. But we were just speaking about this. The guys that will put in the work at the house and stay out the time, the few that I know that have actually stayed like 6 months to a year, they're the ones that are successful now. I mean, I could name a couple of them. I'm not going to, but you've really put in the work and put in the time, because I just want to say that I do not pick up very many individuals from county jail that I'm able to hold on to, because coming from county jail, a short time of sobriety, or even coming from rehab, the guys that come from prison, or the girls that come from prison, maybe, sometimes the girls, but the men that I pick up from county jail that come straight from county jail, like I always say, like you were talking the strong arm of the law or whatever, I have to have handcuff therapy. I have to have handcuff therapy. I have to be thrown in jail for lengths of time. I've never been a person that could just get sober by doing a week or so in jail. I got to lay down for 7 years.
Absolutely not. Like I said, that whole self-support, like to be a self-sponsor, like I tried, like I said, before I went in, I had a month of just really feeling low and just wanting to be done, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to reach out. I didn't know, what I mean? The blessing that I have in this community and that so many others can have, they just got to go out and get, but I'd been wanting to quit. I'd hit rock bottom so many times, and then I find out rock bottom has a basement, and I was like, I'm done. You know what I mean? If I'm not going to make this conscious decision to get my head out of my ass and really going with this, like, I need to go the other way and go hard the other way and just say, screw it to everything. I'm going to run until the wheels fall off. I'm going to end up dead or in prison. And I just wasn't ready to give up like that. God has, I'm here for a reason, there has to be something else that I'm here for other than, just to go day by day, if it's helping somebody else, that's why the house was so important, because it was such a safe space for me. And people that go through the house, if they're in the house, there is times that it sucks, but the tools that I've gained from there, and it being that house, because not everybody's the same, and not everybody's in the same stretch of their recovery. So you're learning how to deal with people that are newly recovering. You're learning how to deal with people that are long-term mental issues, all these things that you're going to run across in the real world. And you have that safe spot to be able to process them, learn how to deal with them, learn how to deal with authority, because not many of us like to, or, I'm a control freak. That's what was one of my biggest things, is letting go of control and not, just being defeated and giving it up to God, and just being like, look, I don't drive this bus. I don't want to drive this bus. I'm not a good driver when it comes to my life.
Yeah.
So that's why, I tell people, stay there. It's a great place. There's pros and cons to everything. There's going to
Sure.
be fans and haters for everything, but I can honestly say that that house, you guys, the judicial system, it worked for me.
Mhm.
It was a true and blessing. And, I feel I don't have these bad days. There's sometimes I wake up and I'm like, but
Mhm.
I've made it a habit to, if I wake up feeling like that, I'm like, no, God's good and I'm good because of God. Like, I'm not letting this happen. I'll take that
Right.
pause, 3, 5 seconds, whatever it takes me, just to take a deep breath. And then it's gone, and I got to give that, like, that recognition to, okay, it scares me that it's easy this time, and that I
Right.
haven't had
No, yeah.
many bad things, you know what I mean? But I also got to think not like that and be like, okay, it's this easy because I'm putting in the work. And gotta you gotta give yourself credit sometimes. And that's a hard thing for me because I've never wanted praise for being sober, because there's my sisters, my mom, they've been through the ringer just like me, and my mom more,
Right.
and she's never had to turn to alcohol or drugs. So me being an addict in recovery or being sober, I'm like, well, people do that all the time. So I never want to praise for it,
Right.
but it's something that's become easy for me because I am putting in the work and the proper steps and taking direction from people that are successful. Like I said, I've always been a product of my environment, from when I was a kid, from my addiction to now. I don't have a big social group. I don't have, like, all my friends before, they were all for that kick down the door Aric. Like, it was a root ha ha yeah yeah, to see that Aric. But I don't have many of them. I got some support from my people from the past, definitely. I choose who to hang around, who not to hang around. I still have family members that are in addiction, and I can love people from afar. I can't force feed nobody's sobriety. Nobody can force feed
Nope.
it.
Are you there? I think I lost him for a minute. Aric, you're froze up. Oh. Okay, Aric is froze up. Actually, get your brother. What's wrong? All right, we're gonna try to get Aric back on here. Ashley, go in there and see if you can. I don't know what happened. Okay. Maybe Ashley, if you can have him log out of the link and log back in. Yeah, Ashley, have him go log back in. And thank you, Kimberly. I'm proud of you too. I'm really excited about everybody that hopped on here. I need Aric to go back on, pop through the login again, and I can add him back to the stage. But we are super proud of Aric. I really have to shout out Aric's family, because they reached out to me, and his family are some of my biggest supporters. I was going through something recently, and Aric's mom she's just ready to back me up at any cost. She's ready to show up and show out for me. So I don't know what's going on with Aric. Hopefully we can pop him back on here. Let's see. Well, I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully he can log back in and get back up. But Aric is a member of Sunrise. We do the Sunrise Project every Monday night. Device not connected. I think Aric's coming back. I don't know what's going on with Aric. There he is. Okay, here he is. Hello. What's up? I was just talking to him about Sunrise Project, about how, like, how you've graduated. So Aric's graduated the New Hope Reentry Program. He's graduated the Sunrise Program. He's graduated the House of Hope, and he still never misses a Sunrise meeting. And we've talked about this a lot. And I talk about this a lot at Sunrise. If you are going along and doing this set of things every single day, I don't even care if it's like discombobulated, but you do these certain amount of things every week, and something you do every day is helping you keep sober. Don't stop doing one of them. And so He's like, yeah, I've
Absolutely.
graduated all these things, but I'm going to keep showing up because who knows what the magic ingredient is. And Sunrise is a
Yeah,
place of
I have
support and
people
connection.
ask me all the time, like,
Yeah.
why do you still go? Or I'm like, well, like you said, I don't know what one ingredient, if it's one ingredient or if it's all of them that's keeping me on this pathway to recovery. So I'm not
And
going
because they're
to
cool.
play Russian roulette and take them out and be like, oh,
Right.
maybe I can slim and slide by with this, it. And as much as it may rub against the recovery community, whatever, I don't go to meetings every day. My
Right.
life doesn't allow me to, but I feel part of recovery is finding that balance
Yes.
to have a job, have your life, be a family member, be a part of the community, and I feel I found um, that happy balance for now. You know what I mean? It's in the beginning it was hard for me to try to
He was.
justify like who deserves more time. Whether it's my family, whether it's my recovery, but I've I've had to realize and understand that I can't have a family, I can't have a job, I can't have none of these things unless God and my recovery are my top priorities. And I've been able to have like the strongest support from my community, from my family, from my day one A1, my daughter. You know what I mean?
Love her.
She's a rock star, and she's she was one of those victims of my chaos. And uh yeah, she to this day knows exactly how many days. Sometimes I have to ask her how many days I'm clean, and it's crazy that a 9-year-old little girl, like, I feel somewhat guilty about it because my daughter knows how many days her dad's been clean. And in the beginning, the meeting, she hated him. Dad, why do you gotta go? Why do you? Babe, I have to go because this is what I have to do to be your dad. And in the beginning it was hard, but now she understands. She'll be, Dad, are you going to your meeting? Dad, are you going to your Monday? Like, she wants to come, and she
She
wants to
does
just,
come.
she's played a big part in my recovery. And and I can't be negative about it, and her, like, understanding, because that it's her life too. So out of
Yeah.
anything, I can just hope that I'm showing my kid what resilience is, that people do make mistakes, but it's what you do to rebound from it. You know what I mean? I could show her defeat and negative thoughts, and just all these things negative, that, or I can turn it to something positive, like you have with the Sunrise program, with the Flower Girl. Like, turn this negative things that we've done and the people that we've hurt into something powerful. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to choose to do.
And I think that, and we've talked about this a lot, and we just talked about it the other night about how you really are doing it. You really are doing it the right way. I mean, about relationships and, the importance, it's easy to not practice what people we preach or whatever, but, some of the things you put into place, talk about, like, about why you don't get a relationship because of your daughter, and what, talk kind of about that, because that's a big fail in recovery. A lot of times is when we link up before we're ready.
And, like one of the golden rules, they talk about
Yeah.
not getting in a relationship in your first year of recovery. I'm like, I'm not trying to, like, even think. I can barely handle myself, let alone somebody else. Nor does, like, you're going through learning all these new feelings and being able to feel these feelings and how to justify them and how to handle them, how to bottle them up, whatever the case may be. And I just, what do I have to offer a woman, when I'm just barely rebuilding myself? So I think that's where a lot of stuff gets misconstrued. And obviously you want to feel that compassion, you want to have somebody by your side and have those feelings of care and stuff like that. I'm lucky enough to be able to fill my cup full with my daughter and my family.
Yeah.
And it's me about focusing. Like, you have to be somewhat selfish, I guess, in recovery to be able to take care of yourself. Self-care is big, and being able to give my daughter 1000% me.
Right.
I've been lucky enough to be able just to, you know, give her all of dad time. She doesn't have to share me with nobody, and I haven't found a reason to justify, splitting time with her for somebody else, or, somebody else with kids, because being a step is a big thing. Kids deserve the world, and my daughter does, and I'm just not in a position to even think about, you know, other problems outside of my family, me being a father, my work, and my recovery. That, I think that's where you go on that piss ditch, you're driving on a straight road, but on both sides there's a ditch, and it's easy to fall off in those ditches when you start forgetting about what the real main goal is, on recovery and trying to keep that straight and narrow.
Aric, be very aware. Hi, Stella. Be very aware that when there is a girl comes in, me, Ashley, Lacey, your mom, we all, it's like a job interview. It's a panel. Okay. It's a panel. Yes. And I'm in on it. I just want, yes, Stella said being able to stay with a positive mindset is very powerful, and you are doing it. And you are, and you always show up for people. And you are, a couple of people have been like, when I said Aric is coming to talk one night, or I was talking about Aric Baetti, and they're like, he's won high expectations, Ashley said. They're like, oh, is that the guy that just always comes? I mean, everybody knows you're there, and everybody knows that you can, you're able to talk to them, and you've come such a long way. And I feel like in recovery, we grow together, and like, the recovery community, recovery is just not AA or NA. And I got sober by AA, and I love AA, but we do, tomorrow night, we're going to have a sound bath. I mean, there's a lot of things we do at Sunrise that we support each other. And yeah, I think it's very powerful that you keep showing up and that you stay committed, because once you stop doing those things, once you stop, things just start falling off. It took us a long time. I've been sober for 7 years, but I was addicted and had mental health struggles, which I still do, for a lot more years than that. And so for us to think that, that's why, we mistake feeling better with being better. And,
Yeah, absolutely. Learning what to replace all that lost time or new time, in recovery. Like there's a lot of first things that I've had to do and experience in recovery, like first birthdays, first Christmases. There's a lot of stuff, I was high or drunk every day for a lot of years. So there's a lot of things, I'd be lying if I didn't say when I was going on trips or, at different events and stuff, that it didn't come across through my mind. Like, oh, like not necessarily would it be better if I was high or drunk? Cause I've always been honest about my life and my lifestyle, and like, did I love getting drunk and high? I would lie if I say I didn't, but I love this better. This is definitely more fulfilling. So those thoughts do come through to my mind when I do certain things or first time things. I remember when I first got out, I think I'd been out maybe a week, and the Salsa Fest came, and I got permission to go out, and I was super anxious. I had so much anxiety, because I'm from in this big city. You can go and make a million different friends and have a new story, and they don't have to know who you are. But in our town, like everybody knows me and everybody knows us and what I did and who I was. So it was super nerve wracking for me to go out and be like, is my recovery strong enough to see old faces, old places, old things? But that was, to me, when I get those thoughts that come through my head, I feel in my situation, it's a part of addiction and it's a part of recovery, and it's God or my higher power that I choose to call God, letting me know, like, yeah, Aric, you're still sick. You're still an addict. And I think I need those God shots sometimes, so I don't get complacent. And I do know that I have, and realize that I have things that I need to work on continually every day, because I'll be an addict in recovery until the day I die. The only difference is I can die sober, God willing. I don't have to end my story on the bottom. I could be a recovery story. I could be a positive story, and I could be a message to somebody that's struggling, or, I can be that phone that they call, that person they call when they're struggling. And, and I try to reach out to people, and, just like you, I have guilt on some things, and man, I could have helped this person, or, oh, I should have reached out. Maybe if I called this person, you know what I mean? But like I said, it's a take or go buffet there, and you can't just sprinkle sobriety dust on people. That you have to be willing to reach out, and as hard as it is, it's what saved my life.
Yeah, and so I do remember, I think maybe you'd been out 30 days or something, and we went to court, and Jeff's on here too, and I don't go to court with people unless they're really putting in the work and doing it, because people just call me and be like, Kristen, will you go to court with me? No, how am I? Like, you have to like come to the programs with us, you know. And I showed up one day for a certain court hearing, and he said, "Who are you here for?" And I said, "Aric Lopez." And he said, "What's up, Jeff?" He said, "Oh, this is a closed hearing. Do you want to come in?" And I said, "No, no, no, I don't want to come in." And he said, "How's he doing?" And I said, "He's doing amazing." And he was just really happy to hear that. And you know, just like with Jeff, there's other guys in the program right now that I'm able to go to court with, and women that I know show up every week and show up when they don't have to, because there's nobody in Sunrise right now that absolutely has to be there. You know, there's nobody that checks in with me that absolutely has to do it. No one's court ordered, not right now. And so to be able to, and you got Jeff on here supporting you, it's a really good feeling when I can walk into court and me and Patricia and some girls went with one of the girls from the house the other day. There is a certain blessing around our programs. There just is. Like you said, there's always some weird stuff going on also in our house, whatever. It's just, but for our program, there's like, people don't realize how good they have it. And I do, like I said, I do have to acknowledge the justice system in Graham County, because I'm a train wreck and a mess. And the fact that they put me in charge of this, and then they let all you guys help me, and that we're running this thing, and we're all just like have been out pillaging the town for the past whatever. So, you know, our community is changing, and there's still
That's where that kudos to you comes in. You know, I mean, you're a cornerstone to this recovery community. I don't. I've never heard of any people being able to have that sway when you come into a courtroom on a judge, you know, that's seeing what our program is doing, being recognized by all those authoritative people, you know, and it started with you to be able to change what people see addicts are or anything like that. You know what I mean? It speaks volumes. I don't know if you can ever be given enough praise to what you're doing for us. You are one of us, so I can't just say, you know,
sure.
it's crazy though to see, you know what I mean, like the impact that you have when you show up with people, and what showing up to the programs actually does for you if you're really putting in the work. You know, I'd signed a plea in county that wouldn't have worked out in my favor, wouldn't have kept me in town. It would have sent me away for a little while, you know, but I got my court pushed out. I bonded out. My brother-in-law, Greg, he wanted me to give him a shout out. So, you know, he was one of the factors that helped me bond out and had court like 8 weeks out. So I went to the house. I'd already signed my plea, knew what I was going to do, knew what I was going to be going away for. Continued to work the program. And when I went to that court, they changed the district attorney, prosecutor. They modified my plea agreement and like, look, you're doing good. They changed my whole plea that I'd already signed for. Let me stay home. Let me stay in my daughter's life. Let me be a part of this whole House of Hope recovery thing. You know what I mean? And that's what I tell people. Like, yeah, she's gonna show up for you, but ultimately you have to show up for yourself, and you can't fake the funk. Like,
and that is one thing I love too.
That man, I'll give it to him. You know, he's. I see him on a personal level, and you know, it's crazy. Yeah, who knows how many thousands of people he sees, but he will always recognize the addict that's doing good. And you know, that speaks volume, especially in a day and age of now where the success rate isn't good. 2% they talk about. You know, I've been a statistic for a long time on the other side. You know, so to be a statistic on the 2% side and then be recognized for it. You know, that's where I tip my hat to you. And, you know, you haven't, I don't know where you find the time. You have 15 different personalities and they're all crazy, you know, and I don't think with one less, you'd be able to cover all those bases, but you do, you know what I mean? And it's this community, we didn't have it 5 years ago, all the help and all the opportunities you have. If you really want help, you know, I remember the first rehab I went into, going to check in, and the first picture on the wall there is the first step's the hardest. And by God, was it? You know what I mean? But as long as you step into that doorway and leave all your bullshit behind, you know, there's plenty of people, and ultimately somebody like you that's willing to go to bat for them, you know, and show up every time to where it works out in the end, you know, and makes life and this recovery journey like so much easier.
I think but you know, we wouldn't be able to do this if there wouldn't have been a group of us. People are never going to change the way they look at addicts or the formerly
Mhm.
incarcerated if we don't give them some good reason to.
Right.
And Judge Peterson even says, you know, it's amazing, this core group of people. And obviously you don't walk into Sunrise and you're like, I'm cured and it's whatever. No, but we've been able to help enough of us, myself included. I sit down right with you guys. We're all the same. That is why it works. The success of the Sunrise program has come because of this core group of people, and because of the House of Hope, and because of Caring Hearts, and because of Kathy Grimes and
Mhm.
our community. I do have to say, our community, for me to like, I have a picture where I'm cutting the ribbon and Judge Peterson's right here, PJ's right here, TJ is right here, and usually there is no way I would have been standing between them, but the willingness of our community leaders to try and change this, and it's about us, it's about the people in recovery making a change, making a difference. They need us, we're the connectors, right? So I wouldn't be able,
Absolutely.
this program wouldn't work without you guys. There's a couple more people on here I want to say before we get off here, but Kenny Smith was on here. I don't know, your mom said Barbie rocks, love, love, love. Yes, I love you too. Your mom is the best, I swear. Your mom, I was going through something and she literally messaged me and was like, hey, I'm ready to go whenever you are. Your mom's straight up, she's got my back, you know.
She will go tooth and nail for the ones that she loves, you know what I mean?
She
And she
will.
definitely gives you and Ruben and Kathy and the House
Yeah.
of Hope, you know, the credit due for um her not having to visit me through glass or put me 6 feet under. You know,
Yep.
it's a big thank you to you guys, you know, because I couldn't do it by myself. They couldn't do it for me. Like I said, my family tried giving me many of interventions and tried loving me, tried leaving me, like all the above, and it wasn't, nothing was working until I had the right mixture of everything and the right surrounding people, you know, that really pulled me out of that deep dark spot.
But it takes people from the community like your family to let me be able to have the job I have. It takes people like your sister and Ruben and your mom that support the coalition. Virgie was on here. We do have a lot of community support, but you know, these programs don't work without some cornerstones. And like I always say, Sunrise has this core group of like 5 people, and that's me. Well, you know, we know who we are. You know, we're the OG Sunrise team, but we've got a lot of girls from the house, and we've got guys that have been coming steadily for a long time too. And you know, that's what I just want to say, you know, before we get off, that we are available. You can reach me on any social media platform. Sunrise runs on Monday nights at 5:30. It's a open, it's not even a meeting, it's not a meeting. Everything that happens in Sunrise though is anonymous. We have fun and take pictures and make videos only when everybody's on board. That's
Only
not
when you
something.
don't have warrants and you want to.
Yeah, I mean, you're locked in for life, but it is anonymous. If you choose to be out there with us tomorrow night, we are having a sound bath at the Sunrise Center. Um, you know, we believe in a holistic approach to reentry and recovery, and you know, we
Yep.
have
Shout out to Stacy
different.
for fixing the inside of us.
Yes, and Stacy, she was on here, but Stacy's going to do a sound bath tomorrow night. We're going to start our um and do a little thing on the new month starting. And you know, I've been going through some things, I'm sure we all have. We're just going to have a nice sound bath tomorrow night. The Phoenix is going to present that, but anybody is welcome at Sunrise. Also, you can reach out to us at the Graham County Substance Abuse Coalition. We have
Absolutely.
prevention, we have Narcan, we have recovery, we have meetings at the houses. There's some great 12-step meetings in town. There is recovery available in Graham County if you want it. And if you need help, you can reach out to me or Aric, and
Absolutely.
you
I
will get
always
a
have a beer and a story, so anybody wants to hear it or tell it,
message.
I'm always available.
Yes, we're always here. And obviously, if you're hearing this or here, you know how to contact us, and that's through social media. But if you need to get a hold of Aric, you can get a hold of me. Oh, yes. Also, your sister, we have a subcommittee, and I haven't been very good about being a part of this recently because I'm so busy doing other things. But we have a subcommittee um, in our community that puts on events to raise money for things like Recovery Angels, and you know, to go out in the community and teach people about, you know, Narcan and overdose. And it's just a very small committee. And we really would like to get the community more involved in that. Ashley, when's our next meeting? We really could use help throughout the community, and people reach out to me all the time. I want to get involved. I want to help. You got to put your money where your mouth is. Everybody wants to, nobody shows up. Yeah, you got to show up. I mean, people always say they want to help. We need people. Oh, tomorrow at 4 at the reentry center. Tomorrow at 4 at the reentry center. And they got some cool events coming up. Yeah, they have an event coming up. If you guys want to show up tomorrow at sunrise, right at the Sunrise Reentry Center, up on the hill, and I'll put well, it doesn't matter. I'll put the address right here. But there is always things to do we're a small coalition. We run completely on grants and donations. We work really hard. It's me and Kathy up there, and the prevention, Melissa, Stella. We work really hard, and we have a really great coalition in the community made up of, you know, the sheriff, all the treatment places in town, and we work really hard to do things and bring awareness in this community. And we would really love some more community support. We have a meeting the first Tuesday of every month. I think that's right. Is it, Ashley? I swear. The first Tuesday of every month up at the coalition. Tomorrow, Ashley said the meeting is actually at the Women Sober Living. If anybody has any questions about any of this, they can message me on here afterwards. But yeah, I thank you.
Definitely show up and help. Definitely show up and help. You know, it's a different world we live in now. Drugs aren't just in the back alleys or out of somebody's trunk. You know, I'm sure everybody's from different walks of life, and the majority of people have had addiction touch their life some way, somehow. Somebody they know, somebody they've lost. You know, so any support, you know, is definitely going to be able to help save at least one more life. You know, so please show up and show the support. Physically or, you know, spiritually, either way, just show up and help and support these people that are making happy stories for people like me, you know, and making true believers out of all the naysayers. You know, that's all we can do is just connect and reach out and be open-minded and willing and be there for each other.
Yeah. So Aric, after we get off, anybody that's there's some people commenting in here. After you get off, you can go back and comment back to them. But so thanks, Aric, for being on here. Like I said, if anybody needs help or wants help, coalition meeting is this Tuesday at 12, first Tuesday of every month. Thanks, Stella. Stella's one of the prevention girls, Stella and Melissa, and they go in and teach about vapes, and they make pinwheels, huh, Stella? So I'm just going to throw this out there really, really quickly. Recovery is amazing, and I love recovery, but prevention is where it's at. We got to meet these kids where they're younger, meet them
Amen.
before there's a problem. And we have these ladies go into the schools, they mentor students, and a lot of these students are children of incarcerated or addicted individuals. So we have a really great prevention programs. Graham County Substance Abuse Coalition works really hard in all the schools around here. Kathy, Melissa, and Stella are constantly running different places, and they are available for mentorship. Hey, I got to get them on here. They're available. Again, you can contact me and I can put you in touch with them if you have a student or somebody that needs mentoring, if you need us to come do a Narcan presentation, a vaping presentation, something like that. We have all those things available. I'm just going to Yes, Stella, I'm getting better at this. I can't keep everything straight, but yeah, they do a great job. I love Stella. She's so funny. I love Melissa too, but Melissa made me breakfast this week. And so, yeah, they're great to work with. And Kathy's off this week, but I want to remind everybody this Tuesday at 12 up at the Reentry Center is our coalition meeting for the community. Come find out what we're doing, what resources are out there, how you can help. Also, tomorrow night at sunrise at 5:30, we're going to have a sound bath and some breath work. And yes, anybody who needs any help from me or Aric or anybody at the coalition, you reach out, and you can reach me on here and or the Substance Abuse Coalition page, and we'll put you in touch with the right people. Thank you, Aric.
Man, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah. Thank you to my family, my sisters, my mom, my brother-in-law, everybody out there that showed me support and got me where I am today. You know, this isn't a solo journey for me, and I'm truly blessed to have everybody on my side and supporting me. But yeah, thank you very much. I love you guys.
Okay, everybody. Bye, Rosalie. Okay, I'll see you guys. Stay on there.